not to invite or agree to come out for the protests come August 1. So we are looking out to see what will happen. But is protest actually the solution to our problem? Well, joining me in the studio on this is the convener of the African Women Summit, a former chief press secretary to the First Lady of Nigeria, is also the founder of the Engage, Empower, Educate initiative. Is a non-governmental organization that provides a platform for women, girls, and young people to take the lead in Africa's development. He is also the convener, the Coalition of Women in Africa for Peace and Development, COAP, that has been promoting peace and also development initiative. A certified coach and consultant for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise, MSMEs, by GEES, German Development Agency. Well, the person we're talking about is not that person than Belema Meshack-Hart. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you for coming on the show tonight. Now, let's go straight to the issue of protest. You know, I remember, was it after the NSAS that we spoke? And you were in this studio. You talked about the fallout of the NSAS and why Nigerian youth need to rethink the way they handle situation in the country.
Yeah.
So this is looking some kind of NSAS protest, but just that the NSAS was not announced.
Yeah.
It didn't gain this much announcement. But this one, this End Bad Governance, so people call it the hunger protest.
Yeah.
Where is it leading us to?
Thank you, IJ. That's a very interesting question. First of all, I think they already have some demands set in place for the protest. That's quite good. And I think it's the right of every citizen to protest, as long as that protest is a peaceful protest. And the key word here is peaceful. Thank God you brought up my last interview here. I said then that when the government ascended to the 5 demands, that the youth should have stopped protesting. And you remember it was after they continued protesting, after the demands were met, that we saw all the escalation that happened at the last protest. So yes, they are allowed to protest. Everybody can protest. It's a constitutionally guaranteed right, but it has to be peaceful. And I hope somehow we can guarantee peaceful process.
But you see, something you made mention of their demands. That of the NSAS, the demands were their demands was everywhere. As at that time, they were all on the social media. You could see them. You could get even flyers. But in this one, what are their demands? Nobody even knows who they are. Though, at the beginning of NSAS, nobody knew who the organizers were. But in this case, what are their demands? They're just saying end bad governance.
I think I have seen a bit of their demands. Some of them is talking about INEC to rejig INEC and stuff like that. But like you have said, it's not as widespread as it should be. And that's where the problem comes in. You talk about leadership. Who are those in charge of this protest? Because you need someone or a certain number of people to take the lead of the protest. So what if the government wants to call for a conversation? Who will the government call? You see where the challenge is. So we hope that they can come out with some form of leadership so that we can ask these pertinent questions. I mean, what are your demands? I heard on social media, however, that one of the demands is the release of the IPOB leader. And and the person that wrote it on social media says just because of that reason, he can't join the protest. Are you getting me? So can you give us the list of your demands? Can you make it more public so that everybody can have access to it? Can you come on networks like this? Are the demands, and can you put yourself forward such that the government can know those that are leading the protest? So if they want to have a conversation, because the protest will lead to negotiations.
Yeah.
When the NLC and NUC and TUC go on protest, the government calls the leaders for a negotiation. So the protest leads to a negotiation. Who will the government now negotiate with? Who are the front runners?
So that means the way it's looking, because I've seen groups come out to say no, they don't want to be part of it. The Arewa group came out, they don't want to be part of it. The Meitiala said they don't want to be part of it, they are not interested. They've been grouped in the sub-nationals from states coming out to denounce being part of the protest. So that means the protest may not hold.
I think the protest will hold. and I think it will hold very strongly. And that's why government is, if the protests wouldn't hold, trust me, government wouldn't take it seriously. I mean, you can see meeting of state governors, you can see the president even making a remark, and FCT commissioner making everybody, even I saw one released by the Oba of Benin, right, making a remark. So if it were not going to hold, trust me, those remarks will not be made. I am convinced the protest would hold. However, I am asking that it be peaceful, and the police, for the first time, they have enough time to prepare for the protest. Last time, they did not know. It just came on them.
It took them unaware.
Yeah, so now they have enough time to prepare. So it's a lot of work for the police. I would like to see how the police will handle peaceful protesters when it starts on the 1st of August. It will hold, definitely.
Well, let's take a look at the situation in the country first. This major thing leading to this protest is the anger that is bottled up inside a lot of Nigerians. Hunger, anger. Because, one, they expected that, yes, after the Buhari administration, at least Nigerians will heave a sigh of relief. Then the announcement of the removal of fuel subsidy, people were like, oh, good one. That's what we've been saying, so that the criminals will not have access to our fund again. And less than 24 hours, NNPC announced a new price. And since that price came up, it has been a drop of the naira, increase in electricity tariff, that even they don't have the poor in Nigeria again. They just have the people that cannot even survive because they don't feed. They don't even have middle class again. It is either you are up there or you are with them, down. So that has increased the anger in a lot of persons. But looking at it, the government says they are still trying their best to see that things go well with the bad economy that we are faced with in Nigeria. Who now is to answer to the grievances of a number of them?
Yeah, that's why you say it's unfair to say this youth should not protest. It's rather unfair. They are bearing the brunt. I mean, it's ridiculous. I used to fill my tank or my car, 14,000, 15,000. Now it's over 50,000 to fill up my tank, and it barely goes a week. So it's rather unfair to ask them not to protest. I think at this point, what the government should do is to try to get them together. That's why I say they need a leadership. And so, okay, what are your concerns? We know food prices are going up. We know the cost of living has soared. The dollar at a point was 1,900. I mean, you need to see the repercussion for those kind of hikes and in things. So you need to call them together and say, okay, see, and the media handlers of the president need to do better. Let's know what the government is doing. And we also need to see that the government is also cutting costs, not buying a new presidential jet. Yes, and not spending so much. You see, people are trying. People cannot even feed once a day. You know, before it was 101 or 001, people cannot feed. You see a married man asking for 2,000 naira to feed his family, and he sees that the people at the highest level of government are not cutting their costs. They still have 20, 30 cars in their escorts. Doing what? Are you getting me?
And some of them flaunt it on the social media. Flaunt
it everywhere. It's everywhere in their face. And you say they should not protest. No. You can't beat a baby and say he should not cry. That would be rather unfair. So what I think the government should do is, one, the media team should come out and say, this is what the government is doing. Two, the president should come out and say, okay, what are your demands? Let's sit down, even before you start this process, not threatening on social media and threatening over the media houses. What are your demands in the first place? Let's look at them. This is what we have in plan to achieve this from point A to point B, and it will take us 20, 30, 40 days to achieve it. See what the Argentinian president did. Immediately he came into office, he promised to cut costs. He cut it down, removed unnecessary ministries, and you can see what is happening to the Argentinian economy. The people in Argentina will not protest because they say, okay, while we are suffering the pains, the president is also doing something to help us ameliorate the pains also, right? But here we are, the citizens are suffering. Some people walk long distances to work because they can't afford transportation. Okay, you're providing CNG buses. Where are the buses, right? Can we see the government cut down on costs of running, of governance? Can we see the escorts and convoy come down? How much are you spending on fuel, on diesel to fuel those cars? And you said the youth should not protest. It will be rather unfair. They will have to protest. So meet them halfway. Okay, what are your demands? And let's see how we can achieve success together. I'm going to this Point B, please, can you join me? Can you give me time? Can you give me 1 year? If I don't achieve this in 1 year, then you can come out again and protest. But I promise you, I will do that. The president said he appointed, I think, a lady to score the ministers. It's not time to score the ministers.
He gave them 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's over 6 months.
Yeah, it's not time to score the ministers. What are they doing? It's not time to score. When the citizens see this kind of actions, right, you score the ministers and you fire 4. Wow. The president means well for us. So it's rather unfair to say these people should not go out and protest. I suggest they should, but I insist it must be peaceful. Nigeria.
How can you have a peaceful protest in a country where the tempers are already high?
No, you can. One thing, you see, because there's no responsibility in the leadership, it's another challenge. Because if there's a leadership of the protest, if they know that if anything happens, they can be held responsible, they will do more to control the bias during the protest. But what I would suggest is that when the protest is ongoing, right, they should discover, because they insist that these people that caused carnage are planted. So you know yourselves. If you see somebody that you think is one of those that will come and cause carnage, you hand them over to the police, because the police now, it should be responsible to ensure that the path these people will go on this protest are protected and secure. So the police will always be there. So I think they should find a way to ensure it's peaceful.
Mr. Belema, let's take you back to 2012. When they started that remove subsidy, give us back, during the Jonathan administration, January 1, I think so, it was a New Year gift for Nigerians there. It started peaceful. People gathered at the center of each cities in the state. But at the end of the day, after about the second day, towards the end of the second to the third day, we saw that criminals took advantage of it. They went around looting. I remember then I was in Benin, and they went to this local bureau de change, and they looted a lot of things from there. I can remember what happened. Even in some of the states, you saw that it became a protest that turned into violence. Are we ready for that? Let's also take a look at the EndSARS thing. EndSARS, well, Nigerian youth came out. They were all singing EndSARS, End Police Brutality. It was like a carnival. People were going out there. I had to even go at 2 occasions to in front of Maitama by that Transcorp junction there, that T junction. But in less than 1 hour, I saw security men shooting tear gas, and it became violent. How do you control such? And you know what is going on in this country? Is it possible? It's not possible to have a peaceful protest.
I think it's possible, and why I think it's possible, I want to insist, is that when people know that they will be to blame, they try as much as possible to ensure that they manage the protest. But you have clearly said, you see, even a protest that was even organized and we saw the leaders, there was still carnage. Then imagine a protest that there's no leadership. Are you getting me? That's why I say the government should try and meet them halfway. Can you stop this protest even before it happens? Not by issuing threats. Can you get these people? Who are they? What are your demands? I've seen the demands. So if government want to see those demands, they can. I've seen the demands. So if you see the demands, you say, okay, I want to have a meeting. I want to have a meeting with you guys. I've seen your demands. Let's talk. Because every protest must lead to the negotiating table. Let's talk. Try and stop this before it happens. Because you see, the way everybody is speaking, everybody is looking forward to massive destruction. And you see, Nigeria as a country, we have so much infrastructure deficits. We cannot afford another at this time. You see the way small businesses were looted, like you have said. I mean, somebody had invested so much into his business, and because of a protest, everything is gone in a minute. Now, who do you hold responsible for that? Will you blame the government? The government is not the organizer of the protest. But if they want to hold somebody in the protesters, who do they hold? So I think it's a challenge. And you can see from the reports coming out that every institution is very concerned. And August 1st will be a remarkable day in Nigeria.
Really?
It will.
I still feel nothing will happen then.
Well, if the president is proactive, I feel if the president is proactive, okay, someone said, can the president even come on Twitter Spaces and speak to these youths? This is where they are hanging out.
That's why I said, take us back to the First and Second Republic. We had leaders who could even enter the middle of the protest and stand on top of vehicles to say, I have listened to you. What are your demands? I tell you, if we have a president that can face Nigerian youths on the day of protest, nothing will happen to him. He will be loved by all. And that alone can even change their mindset. But it's not. Look at what happened in Kenya. The Kenya protest is still raging as it is at this moment.
I spoke to some people in Kenya. They do it Tuesdays and Thursdays right now. And you see, I point at the Kenya protest. For one, I supported the protest, right? Because I felt young people wanted to give a voice. They were fired up. And guess what? Kenya has 24 hours power supply. But these guys were still angry. Are you getting me? And one of the people that attended my summits in Kenya, the team was amplifying their voices, inspiring change. And they took it and said, wow, this is for us. And they went out to the streets. Now, when the president came out and gave them what they wanted, I thought it was time to stop. And I told the people I had access to, I said, it's time to stop. You've gotten what you wanted from the president. Why go on and burn the governor's office? Why go on and cause carnage? And now you're putting the police officers in a very tight corner. They have to protect the property of government against the citizens of Nigeria. It's a dilemma for a police officer to be in that position. And I think it's unfair to put any police officer in that kind of position. And I said, you guys would have stopped. And if they had stopped, they would have won. It would have been a win-win, right? But see what happened in Kenya. It's sad to say, but they got what they wanted. The president has sacked all his cabinet secretaries.
Can that happen in Nigeria?
You see, that's why the president must talk to the youth. It can happen.
Sack his cabinet.
Yes.
And then appoint fresh hands.
No, let me tell you why it can happen.
Are the members of the cabinet the challenge that we have?
No, yes.
Are they because of bad economy that they inherited from the past?
No, because the president cannot do everything. He appointed men and women to help him achieve his goals. And he said he will scrutinize them after a period of time. This is the time to shine, Mr. President. Get a list from the lady you appointed that these 7 ministers have not done well. Sack them before the protest. And watch Nigerians. So he has so much room. I should not be telling him, I'm not his advisor, I'm not in government, I'm not a politician.
Are you looking at just the ministers? Take a look at the president's cabinet.
Yeah,
even in his kitchen cabinet
the people you see as a reflection of the president are the ministers, right? Those are his outstretched arms and legs. He can't go to the farms. The Minister of Agriculture has to be there. Are you getting me? He can't talk to the public. The Minister of Information has to be there. He doesn't know what's happening in mines and steel. He needs a minister to be there. The aviation sector, he needs a minister. So those people are his mouthpiece, his hands and his outstretched legs. And if they, because see what is happening. Those ministers want to make the president lose his job. He has to look at it that way. I mean, instead of his head to roll, their heads should roll. He should take that decision and put in capable hands that
can change the situation.
Because he employed somebody to look at them and score them. So what's she doing? And you score a win. And you tell you, okay, see, I've seen these ministers are not working. They are going. I'm employing new hands. What are your demands? Let's begin to work at it.
Okay, what about our elected representatives?
At the National Assembly.
Okay, that's another one. Another big one.
You know, in Kenya, the approach was to go to the National Assembly. That was the first place they went to. Because, you know, those are the representatives of the people, and they eventually broke into the National Assembly. So, like I said, there's no leader for this peaceful protest. So, I don't know what their plans are. But, you see, even the members of the National Assembly are concerned. They're very concerned. They're worried. They're very worried. I'm sure on August 1st, they will not go to work. You can bet me on that. Are you getting? They're very worried. And if they're worried, they should speak to themselves. And I mean, see, for once, let the citizens of Nigeria feel this impact. We cannot be the ones continually bearing the brunt of a failed economy. Why those in high offices continue to enjoy and live on lages, and you're saying that these people should not go on protest? I mean, it's unfair. Where does this happen?
So what would be your advice now to the youths? Because the people that will be most hit if the protest turns into attacks are the women and children. And that's your primary concern.
And that's why I've said, please, while you have the right to protest, you don't have the right to destroy things. You don't have the right to loot. Once you leave a protest to looting and destroying things, you have become a criminal. And the state must ensure it treats you as such. So I advise the police, this protest should be monitored by drones. I mean, free advice. Monitored by drones, right? So when things begin to go south, as you suspect, you should be able to capture those that lead those activities and bring them to book. Because if it's not peaceful, everybody suffers. Everybody suffers.
But at the end of the day, what will be the outcome of the protest? Because
No,
I've tried it before, it didn't work.
No, but they have demands. That's what I'm saying. Let's look at their demands. You know, Kenya, what was the outcome of the protest in Kenya? He sacked his cabinet.
Yes.
And it didn't start from the cabinet, interestingly. It started from a very frivolous bill, finance bill.
Yes.
And that was all they were out for. That you can't bring in this bill that intends to tax us more and remove all the incentives we have for women, especially women and girls. The incentives were removed. And they said no.
And the president cancelled it.
He cancelled it and they said no. Since you wasted time to cancel it, your talking stage with us was too long to cancel it. We are going to the next one. Sack the cabinet secretary, especially for health, because they targeted her specifically and eventually said everybody must go. And when he saw that the fire was too hot, right, he had to sack them. But you see, if he had acted early, to just shelve the finance bill, there would have not been any need to sack his minister. I hope our president is watching and listening.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with the convener of the African Women's Summit, a former chief press secretary to the First Lady of Nigeria, that's the former First Lady, the founder, the Engage, Empower, Educate Initiative, a non-governmental organization that provides a platform for women, girls, and young people to take the lead in Africa's development. Well, I expected that Belema's face should be on the camera, not Ijoma's face. I'm not talking about Ijoma here. Exactly. So Belema is also the convener, the Coalition of Women in Africa and Peace and Development Co-op, they promote Peace and Development Initiative. Is a certified coach and a consultant for micro, small, and medium-scale enterprise by GIZ, a German development agency. It is Meshack-Hart, Belema. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Nigeria.
We appreciate it. Well,